Welcome everyone, this is Tactical Lich here, and today we have a fan-submitted army build sent in by Strat Games with only Throg as the infantry in the entire army. The rest of the army is basically all mobility. Horsemasters in the front, armored skin wolves and regular skin wolves mixed in at the back, and also a bunch of ice wolves as well as the beasts of Tashnar, providing a little bit more mobility. In the front, we also have 3 Marauder chariots providing that anti-infantry bonus, and that's it for the entire Norscan army build. No magic, no numerous infantry chaff, just a whole bunch of mobility ready to charge down these chaos foes, who also brought their own meme build with Quad Chosen at the front line. Now, Chosen by design are very powerful infantry, high melee defense, heavy armor and whatnot, but the lack of immune to psychology does make them rather vulnerable to Norscan monsters, so you don't see them in any matchups usually. For the rest of the army, we have a bunch of Marauder horses with throwing axes ready to chuck their armor-piercing missiles into mammoths and whatnot. And at the back, we have a sturdier backbone, the Chaos Spawn, providing a bit more mass to pin in enemy in place, especially when there are possibly mammoths that require something bigger than cavalry to lock them down. As for the heroic support, we have a couple exalted heroes here, and accompanying them is Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, with the Lord of Fire, with the Slayer of Kings, Burning Head, Flaming Sword of Ruin, and Kindle Flame. He is a powerful duelist, ready to take down large single entities from Norsca. And that's it for the army builds. Without further ado, let's go into the battle itself. The battle begins with a bit of skirmishing between these Marauder Horsemen and the Horsemasters. Of course, the Horsemaster would have the range advantage, so the Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes will be forced back, using the Chosens as a shield, kind of sheltering them and screening away the Marauder Horsemasters, who is focusing on the Chaos Warhounds, which is a great threat to them if managed to get into melee, especially with the Hound's superior speed. 95 on the Hounds versus the 90 on the Marauder Horses. They're the only thing in the Chaos Army to threaten the Horsemasters. The Chaos Warhounds will be pulled back behind the safety of the Chosen, while some of these Beasts of Tashnar are caught in the Chosen's ranks as they maneuver across the battlefield, charging straight for the Chaos character squad here. A Burning Head is dropped, hoping to burn away some of these Ice Wolves and also Beasts of Tashnar, but a nice dodge from the Norscan player Strat Games here managed to taking minimal damage throughout the engagement, as the rest of the army is just basically rolling through the Chaos ranks using the Marauder chariots charge to punch through all these Chosen, but the heavy armor on these Chosen and the melee defense 60 actually managed to protect them from most of that charge damage. Of course, the anti-infantry bonus is still effective, but the Chosen are actually holding out fairly well against the chariot charge compared to the lower tier infantry like the Chaos Warriors and Marauders. And also the Chaos Spawns are pushing in as well, hoping to use their mass to pin in enemy entities, and even the Marauder Horsemen are thrown into battle. But under the weight of all these mobility from the Norsca, especially with the Ice Wolf and Cavalry rear charging, the Chaos Marauder Horsemen would be routed. And most of these Marauder Horsemasters will be able to pull out of this engagement, albeit taking some noticeable damage, since the Chaos Heroes are here to bring them death and destruction. Even the Marauder Chariots have started taking some damage from the Exalted Hero Pursuit. However, the Chosen is a bit scattered right now due to their slow speed, so the Skin Wolves are managing to charge them down left, right and center, trying to isolate them, even successfully routing off some of these Chaos Warhounds in the process. But then again, Skin Wolves do not have the greatest armor-piercing weapon damage despite having high weapon strength, so the Chaos Chosen would be holding their ground with their heavy armor and high melee defense, 60 melee defense versus the Skin Wolves' 40 melee attack, even with Frenzy. Regular Marauders would have been broken by the strike team, but against Chosen, the Skin Wolves have to cycle charge, charging in, pulling back, and finding another angle to do it again, using their mobility to disrupt that Chaos formation, isolate the Chosen, and then hound onto them, converging all the forces to focus them down. The Marauder Chariots at the back are activating their Berserk ability, not sure which stage are they on, the second stage I assume, providing a bit of extra physical resistance and allowing them to just keep on charging down enemy units, taking more damage and whatnot, but the Chaos character squad with their horses are fast enough to catch up and maybe put a few hits into them, doing some nice damage, though the Marauder Horsemasters will be chugging in some javelins covering their retreat and focusing down all these Chaos characters. At the back, the Norscan mobility has regrouped, the Skinwolves are slowly regenerating their lost hit points, and this one isolated Marauder Horseman will be picked off by a bunch of Marauder Horsemasters and also Norscan Ice Wolves and Beasts of Tashnar's pursuit. And with that, the Chaos Army lost most of their mobility, while the Norscan player can focus his mobility and skirmish forces onto the middle Chaos blob. Though with the physical resistance, heavy armor, and shield on Archaon, a better unit to shoot at is probably the Chaos Spawn. With their lack of armor taking maximum damage from all the missiles, the Marauder Cavalry can quickly bring them down, taking away the Chaos support of a heavy, unbreakable, monstrous infantry, which would have been really valuable in late game to pin down Norscan monsters like the Skinwolves and Throg himself, or stopping the chariots from psycho-charging the Chosen. Anyways, a Burning Head was dropped right into the middle of all the Skinwolves, not really doing too much damage due to their large entity models and low auto entity count, but they do have the leadership penalty with the burn effect, so the Skinwolves are being forced back and the Chosen were pursuing for a bit. But then again, Throg is coming in with that giant hammer, smashing apart these poor Chosen, who have turned their backs against the Skinwolves in a desperate attempt to pin down Throg. And Chaos Hero Squad will be dropping in, hoping to snipe him out. He'll be pulling back quickly using the Marauder Horsemasters as a meat shield to pin down all these Chaos units and then come around for a Psycho Charge, refreshing the charge bonus to smash this poor Exalted Hero down to around 600 HP and routing. This Exalted Hero isn't coming back because the Chaos Army does not have the mobility to resecure this hero, as the Norscan Horsemen and Skinwolves chase him off. Now at the back, there are some separated Chosen, probably a mistake on the Chaos player here, allowing some of these Marauder Chariots to run them down, isolate them, just psycho-charging them using their mass to pull through and whatnot, while the Horsemasters shoot at them from the back. Now back to the main block fight, the Chaos is holding out with their melee prowess and a bit of Burning Head spell damage. It's doing some decent damage to all these Marauder Horsemasters and the Skinwolves, especially with Archaon's powerful melee attacks, but the problem is one of the Exalted Hero is gone. All that's left for the Chaos to carry this game is Archaon, who is on half health after the engagement, and the half-health Exalted Hero, while Throg is still completely healthy with the regeneration and whatnot, and the Skinwolves are still free to roam around, psycho-charging here and there, using their regeneration to provide a little bit more hit points to shield Throg from the Chaos. Plus, with their physical resistance, the Skinwolves will be taking less damage from the Chosen, while the Marauder Horsemasters and the Chariots will be psycho-charging into the fray, just surrounding this entire blob of Chaos infantry, while the rest of the Chaos Chosen are too late to respond to support this fight. And you can see that Archaon is taking massive damage alongside the Exalted Hero, regardless of that Flaming Sword of Ruin buff that allows them to do a little bit more damage against the Skinwolves and whatnot. But Throg, despite finally starting to take damage, he is also doing a massive beating on the poor Chaos Exalted Hero. Mounted on a horseback, the Exalted Hero simply stands no chance to the mighty Troll King with his armor-piercing and anti-large attacks. The Chariots have activated the third level of Berserk ability, providing even more physical resistance and leadership buff, and the Marauder Horsemaster as well, their leadership hanging by a thread, but they're still holding all thanks to the extra leadership from Berserk. And they were able to hold on until the Exalted Hero got routed, and now the Marauder Horsemasters are free to chase him down, while Archaon is now isolated. Despite the Slayer of Kings being activated, he does not want to stay in that engagement and get beat down by a bunch of anti-large units, so he will be pulling back, trying to get back to the safety of all these Chosen, as the Marauder Chariots manage to roll through all these poor infantry. So the Chosen are still rather healthy, despite being psycho-charged by the Chariots for the whole time, thanks to their super tough armor and melee defense, which helped them to keep up with the regeneration from the Skinwolves. So the Norscan mobility will be retreating right now after finishing one of the Chosen unit, before getting stuck too far into a melee grind. And now with the Exalted Hero routed away by all the Skinwolves, Archaon will be consolidating with the remaining Chosen units. His health is extremely low right now, so every engagement he seeks needs the support of the elite infantry. But even then, if he gets a charge on his foes, he can still do some massive damage with the Slayer of Kings. That's why Norscans still have to be careful with the engagement, using the mobility to pin down his infantry support while using Throg to go one-on-one versus Archaon. This is exactly what Strat Game's doing right now with the Chariot cycle charging and this unholy blob of mobility, charging headfirst into these bunch of Chaos Chosen. The impact of their charge threw a bunch of Chaos infantry onto the ground, overwhelming their position, surrounding Archaon, providing the bodies and mass to pin down the Chaos Legendary Lord. This is when Throg comes in, raises his gigantic hammer to put a proper beating on the Ever-Chosen. Flaming Sword of Ruin is active, hoping to give the Chosen a bit more of an edge against all the Skin Wolves and whatnot, but Archaon again is just being pinned in by all these mass, unable to extract himself and retreat from Throg's onslaught. And now with a massive hit onto Archaon, the Ever-Chosen is being pushed out. His leadership is slowly dropping to wavering territory. He's not going to hang around for too long with another hit coming down from Throg missing, probably going into the Chosen. Finally, Archaon managed to pull out, but if he ever fights Throg again, he is 1 or 2 hits away from death. Surprisingly, the Chosen held in combat, beating back multiple Skin Wolves units. But still, the balance of power is in the favor of Norscan because Throg is still so healthy. Archaon might have a chance in charging Throg and bringing down his health for a bit, but it is super tough to get cut through all this 4.6k HP as the Chosen are also on their last legs. There are still quite a few models of them, but individually they have really low HP as the Marauder Horse Masters and Chariots cycle charging in again and again. The Chaos Infantry simply do not have the resources they need to pull through this fight as Archaon being isolated now. Strat Game spotting him pulling away from the Chosen support, flooded in a bunch of Skin Wolves, Chariots using their speed and mass to isolate him, pin him down. With their leader gone, the Chosen were like, nope, we've done enough for today, we'll be going back to the Chaos Waste. The Norscans have secured victory over the other Chaos minions. Overall, I find this to be a really creative approach to play Norsca, using all the Ice Wolves and Skin Wolves their speed advantage to pressure enemy mobility, including the Frostbite effect to slow down Glade Riders and allow skirmishers like the Horse Masters to catch up and slaughter them in melee combat. And for the infantry, there will be the Marauder Chariots to do the anti-infantry charge damage to run down enemy light infantry like the Eternal Gods here. While the large units, like all the Sylvan Knights and the Tree Kin, will be dealt with by all the Skin Wolves with their high charge bonus and anti-large attacks. Funny enough, from all the replays I've seen Strat Games playing this build, I've never seen him bringing any magic support. Just different type of lords, including Chieftain in this case, but he seems to have disappeared, probably sniped out by the sisters. There's also Throg for dealing anti-large armor-piercing damage in the case of sniping out enemy single entities, and then there is Wolfric. If you want anti-infantry options, there's always the Chariot, or even better, the War Mammoth mount. And if you just want a duelist, he is available on a horse. Really, it is a great build against various kinds of enemies, against the kiting build that the Wood Elves might possibly bring, going all in mobility in the form of Skin Wolves and Chariots, as well as Marauder Horses and Hounds, is very effective in countering skirmishing plays, while the light infantry of Wood Elves would be vulnerable to chariot charges or just charges of any kind in general, from Marauder Horses to Ice Wolves. I actually had a chance to play against Strat Games' rohirrim build once, and as you can see here, the regular Chaos Marauders just got wrecked by a single concentrated charge from all the mobility, and after that, basically taking virtually no damage. The mobility from Norsca was able to pull out of position, and then simply ping-pong around the battlefield, picking apart my sluggish infantry as they please. I was only able to hold my opponent back with all these Chaos Warriors with halberds, but even then, the heavy pressure from Wolfric and also the Chariots are putting a dent in my forces. And my Burning Head, that was supposed to be good against Berserkers and Marauders from Norsca's roster, well, basically did nothing against this entire mobility force. Strat Games definitely on top of his micro there, pulling away most of the forces before the Burning Head was able to hit. And then my Chaos Marauders yet again being picked off for virtually no damage, other than my Chaos Sorcerer Lord and the Exalted Hero doing some damage to the Chariots. The high speed, heavy mass, and the impactful charges of this Norscan rohirrim is actually against armies that rely heavily on melee infantry. Of course, mobility spam like this often requires player to be on top of their micro, but if micro isn't a problem and you can properly control your army, then the disruption that this build can cause would give you a powerful advantage over your opponent. Before we end the video, let's have a look at the army performances. For the Norscan army led by Strat Games, as you can see here, the melee mobility wasn't able to earn back a lot of their value. Mostly, just cycle charging Chaos Chosen is not exactly the greatest engagement for their lack of armor piercing, but still, they managed to pull out ahead simply because this kind of cycle charging method is so effective in dealing with slower infantry. And with Throg, as well as the Marauder horses chugging javelins and Throg smashing with his hammer, the Exalted Heroes and Archaon the Ever Chosen was not able to hold for forever in terms of melee combat due to that dedicated anti-large armor piercing. With the damage dealers gone and the mobility being eliminated early in combat, the Chosen alone cannot carry the battle by themselves against the scary Troll King, as well as a bunch of Skin Wolves cycle charging again and again. Still, the Chosen are such a solid melee unit that they actually managed to earn back most of their value. They actually managed to keep up with the regeneration of all these Skin Wolves solely from their heavy armor, elite melee stats, and a bit support from the Flaming Sword of Ruin, providing a little bit more damage against the regenerating Skin Wolves with their fire weaknesses. The Heroic Strike Squad also did some solid damage overall, but then Throg was just too much for them to deal with the support of a bunch of Norscan mobility. As for the Chaos Spawn, they would have been great for catching the Marauder chariots, but unfortunately just a bunch of javelins was able to take down their unarmored bodies. And last but not least, the Chaos mobility, they weren't able to do too much damage today simply because Norsca had the superior mobility advantage with all these horsemen and wolves and hounds. Anyways, that is all for today. Big thanks to Strat Games for sending in all these replays. This is definitely a creative way to play Norsca, with no infantry at all, just maximizing the advantage in terms of mobility, the anti-large Skin Wolves, the skirmishing firepower from all these Marauder horses, and the anti-infantry charge impact from the Marauder chariots, supported by a bunch of Ice Wolves and Beasts of Tashnar. With this entire ball of mobility, Norsca was able to use the speed to their advantage, striking where the opponent's sluggish infantry can't respawn, overwhelm their opponent forces at one certain point, retreat and do it again, cycle charging their enemy until victory is secured. And yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you do, remember to hit the like and subscribe to see more Total War Warhammer multiplayer content. And if you want to send in any replays, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check them out. There will be more wild army builds like this one, battle replays, and also tips and strategies for Total War Warhammer multiplayer. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.